We've had 33 years, 16 years of BC Liberal and 17 years of NDP. And we have a crisis, whether it's healthcare, whether it's affordability, whether it's housing, whether it's the drugs, whether it's addictions, whether it's crime, whether it's our resource sector, even our finances. Even the finances have never been worse in this province.
So now, how do you assure the people that what priorities you will bring for them which will be different from the BC Liberals?
Well, there's a lot of things actually that are different. First of all, the BC Liberals don't believe in free votes. We do. The BC Liberals believe that they should be electing a representative to the riding, and we believe that we should be electing a representative from the riding to the party, which is why on the first day of the election I'm going to have all of our candidates take a pledge. And sorry, they didn't deliver. They promised expanded transit, they haven't delivered. Right? They were supposed to be replacing things like the Patella Bridge. It's a year and a half, 2 years late, and way over budget. This is what always happens with the NDP. But I think probably the biggest challenge that we see with the NDP is the crisis we have in healthcare. Right? The healthcare system is broken. It is in a crisis. More money is not going to solve the problem. We need a different model. We have a crisis in affordability. You can't keep raising taxes and making it more difficult for people to do things on a day-to-day basis and expect life to be affordable.
But as far as healthcare is concerned, people are really concerned about it. So what assurance or how do you plan to look into this, that Surrey also gets better healthcare facilities, apart from, of course, the province of British Columbia?
So do
The Harpreet SIngh Show ਦੇ ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਇਸ ਐਪੀਸੋਡ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਪ ਸਭ ਦਾ ਹਾਰਦਿਕ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਹੈ। ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਇਸ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਜੌਨ ਰਸਟਡ ਨਾਲ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਲੀਡਰ ਨੇ BC ਕੰਜ਼ਰਵੇਟਿਵ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਦੇ। ਇਹ ਉਹ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਕਿ ਕੁਝ ਮਹੀਨੇ ਪਹਿਲੇ ਇਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਪਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ, ਬਟ ਇਸ ਸਮੇਂ ਇਹ ਨੈਕ ਟੂ ਨੈਕ ਚੱਲ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ NDP ਦੇ ਨਾਲ, ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨਸ ਅਕਤੂਬਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਆ ਰਹੀਆਂ ਹੈਗੀਆਂ ਨੇ। ਸੋ ਇਸ ਸੰਬੰਧ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਜੌਨ ਰਸਟਡ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਕੇ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਲਵਾਂਗੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਦਾ ਕੀ ਮੁੱਖ ਮੁੱਦੇ ਨੇ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਤੇ ਇਹ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਕਿਉਂ ਇਹ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਮੰਗ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ। ਸੋ ਲੈਟਸ ਵੈਲਕਮ ਜੌਨ ਰਸਟਡ। John, welcome to the program.
Harpreet, thank you for having me on today.
It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you. So let's start straightforward as to, what do you feel the popularity that we have seen, the surge in the popularity of BC Conservatives, this party which was virtually unknown a few months back, but since you took over, it has been going up and up. What reasons do you feel? Is it what people say that it's because of the federal Conservatives that you're getting the benefit, or there's something more to it?
So I think the real issue for most people in the province of British Columbia is we've had 33 years, 16 years of BC Liberal and 17 years of NDP. And we have a crisis, whether it's healthcare, whether it's affordability, whether it's housing, whether it's the drugs, whether it's addictions, whether it's crime, whether it's our resource sector, even our finances. Even the finances have never been worse in this province. And people are looking at it thinking, we desperately need change. And they don't want to go back to the parties that have been there because they're the ones that have created the problem. So they're looking for something new. And as we kind of came on the scene, we presented ourselves as being very different from the other parties in how we're just standing for the average everyday person, just standing for what's right. And I think that has been very much appealing to people. So I'm sure there's some overlap with what's going on federally, but I really believe in British Columbia there's a real momentum for change, and that's a very grassroots movement that is happening with the Conservative Party.
But John, you also have been with the BC Liberals for the past 19 and a half years, if I may say. So now, how do you assure the people that what priorities you will bring for them which will be different from the BC Liberals?
Well, there's a lot of things actually that are different. First of all, the BC Liberals don't believe in free votes. We do. The BC Liberals believe that they should be electing a representative to the riding, and we believe that we should be electing a representative from the riding to the party, which is why on the first day of the election I'm going to have all of our candidates take a pledge that their number one priority will be the riding, speaking on behalf of the riding and voting on behalf of the riding. It's a very different approach. There's many other things that are different too. For example, we feel like what's going on with the sexualization of kids in schools is wrong. We want to change that. We want to eliminate the carbon tax. We want to be able to put that money back into the pockets of people in British Columbia. We believe very much in parents' rights and their involvement and directly with their kids. That should be a foundational thing. There are many other things that we believe that my former party is struggling with, or quite frankly has taken opposite positions.
Where do you think that this present NDP government has not been able to keep up the promises that they were chosen on when they won this election?
You know, the NDP are famous for promising many things and then, under-delivering. They promised a whole bunch of housing, they didn't deliver, right? They promised a new hospital in Surrey, they didn't deliver. They promised expanded transit, they haven't delivered, right? They were supposed to be replacing things like the Patella Bridge. It's a year and a half, 2 years late and way over budget. This is what always happens with the NDP. But I think probably the biggest challenge that we see with the NDP is the crisis we have in healthcare. Right? The healthcare system is broken, it is in a crisis. More money is not going to solve the problem. We need a different model. We have a crisis in affordability. You can't keep raising taxes and making it more difficult for people to do things on a day-to-day basis and expect life to be affordable. Just in the last couple of years, food prices have gone up by 23%. What has this government done? All they've done is increase taxes on people. This is not the way to govern in British Columbia. You need to be able to have a government that's responsive, that's put people at the center of what you do, that just stands for values and makes sure that core value is trying to improve the quality of life for people and making sure that they can build a future here in British Columbia.
So as the polls are predicting right now, there's a neck-to-neck fight going on between the BC Conservatives and the NDP. If elected, what will be your priorities in the first 100 days? Because a lot of things, as you mentioned, need to be looked upon and start working on those grounds. So what will be your priorities?
There are a lot of things to do in the first 100 days, of course. The largest thing to do is get control of our spending. We have an $8 billion deficit, the largest deficit in BC's history. Our economy is in shambles. We need to get our economy back on its feet. We need to get our spending under control. And then, of course, the big thing is we got to provide tax relief to people. We have to make sure that we try to address affordability head on. There's many other components within government that we need to change, repealing bills that NDP have done, but also introducing healthcare, major reforms to healthcare and how we approach doing that. Largest piece, of course, is also on housing. There are big steps that we need to do on housing. Government right now is the current government, the NDP government, is looking at doing an authoritarian approach, a socialist approach to that. We need to unleash the ability of people to be able to invest. We need to be able to come to communities with money for things like water and sewer and really drive opening up those opportunities for building out housing and creating stability in the market that we need to see.
John, when we talk about healthcare, this is a major issue all over Canada. Even in provinces which are being run by the Conservatives also, there also we find that healthcare is a major issue. So, especially let's talk about Surrey. Why is Surrey important to you? And over here, we are saying that this city is going to outpace the population of Vancouver in just a few more years. Yeah. But as far as healthcare is concerned, people are really concerned about it. So what assurance or how do you plan to look into this, that Surrey also gets better healthcare facilities, apart from, of course, the province of British Columbia?
So do we have an hour to go into healthcare, which like the Coles Notes versions? The reality is this. Surrey has been treated as a second-class city for far too long. When you look at the population growth, and it's going to be the largest city. Matter of fact, I think it probably already is the largest city, and it is going to continue to grow. It's going to continue to build out. Yet we don't have cardiovascular services. We don't have pediatric services. We don't have the healthcare professionals we need to deliver services, and we certainly don't have the facilities. So there's big shifts that are needed there. But I think primarily when you look at healthcare, the model that we have, like I say, is broken. And it is the second most expensive healthcare system in the world. And it is subpar in terms of delivery of services. We have great professionals. They can do better than just about anybody in the world in delivering, but getting into the system is almost impossible. So what we need to do is actually be brave enough to say, you know what, this model is not working. What in the world is working better than this? So we looked at models in Europe, which are universal healthcare, single payer, it's paid for by government, but it's delivered by both government and non-government services. And that way we can better utilize the healthcare professionals. We want to make sure that patients are at the center of healthcare, not the system itself. So funding will follow the patients in terms of the services that we'll be purchasing as a government to be delivered. We want to do in things like introducing a guaranteed wait time for patients so that if they can't get the services in British Columbia, we want to build out all those services that we can, but if they can't get them within that time that's needed, we'll look at purchasing that space, whether it's in other provinces or perhaps even down in the States, to make sure, particularly for important things like cancer, that people are getting the treatment they need in a timely way. So there's big shifts that are needed. Recruitment of professionals is a huge issue. It can take up to 4 years for a doctor coming into British Columbia to actually qualify to do work in British Columbia. That's ridiculous. We need these professionals right away. We need to drop the mandates and these ridiculous restrictions that are on there, get healthcare workers back into our system. Just a few nurses and a doctor can make a huge difference when patients are waiting 10, 12 hours or longer in an emergency room for services. And then, of course, there's lots that we need to do on training, lots that we need to do on building out the system. But most importantly, we have to have a system that actually, people feel optimistic about our future. Right now, we have doctors and nurses that want to leave British Columbia. 1 in 3 people want to leave. 1 in 2 youth want to leave British Columbia. And this is all part of the problem. We have to make that shift, create that better environment so we get better services, but also healthcare professionals can feel more valued. They can feel less burnt out because we have a system that is far more responsive, and we can actually be able to build up what we need to do for those services.
You have very rightly pointed a lot of issues, but whenever elections are there, these issues are raised. But later on, they just kind of disappear, and every politician comes and promises. How do you assure the public that they should believe you, that what you are saying, you will implement that? Because you have seen when the NDP came into power, it was the same thing. In Surrey, we'll have a second hospital, but still nothing has been done. As far as other issues are also concerned, the same is the situation.
Yeah.
So how do you assure the community and the people of British Columbia that what you are saying, you'll live up to that and immediately implement it?
We've got, for example, the NDP had promised to get rid of the portables in Surrey, right? They promised all kinds of things. So I want to be held accountable, and I'm not going to be promising things that I can't deliver.
Right.
Right. So we have to be able to do this massive restructuring and what's needed, particularly things like health, but there's many other things we need to be looking at. And you'll see as we roll these things out, the plan and how these things will work. But most importantly, I actually believe that the public needs to have the base information, the truth, so that they can judge governments based on the facts, not based on the spin. So many governments like to come and talk and give you a spin, and quite frankly, they're misleading or they're just outright lying, as we've seen from this NDP government. I actually want to do things like, for example, make freedom of information requests irrelevant, because we're going to make all that information automatically available. So you will have the information at your fingertips, you'll be able to look at it, you'll be able to look at the facts, and then you'll be able to judge governments and political parties based on the facts, not based on the spin or rhetoric that they like to give. And it'll change politics forever. And I want to be able to be held accountable to that information so that people will see this is what we're doing, this is the actual facts, this is what we promised, judge us accordingly, not based on spin.
So transparency is a major promise that you are saying that it will be brought forward. Red tapeism will be put to the background, and people's voice will be heard.
Yes, that's what democracy should be. We should be focused on improving quality of life. We should be responsible for being responsive to people, not feeding them spin or misleading information so that I can try to get a vote. Not interested in doing that. If we mess up, if we make mistakes, I'm going to be straight up with people and say, look, we weren't able to do this, or this, this is a problem. I don't have a problem with that, because I think that's the only way we can be as a government, is just straight up with people, letting them know the facts, giving them the information, and showing them here's how we're going to solve this, here's how we're working towards this, knowing, quite frankly, that nobody's perfect. There are mistakes that will be made, I guarantee it. Every government does. But I want to be straight up with it as opposed to just trying to give people spin.
Well, that's a wonderful promise that you are saying you will, live up to what you are saying. And that's what people want, and that's what democracy is. Whereby, of course, every government makes mistakes, but if you are willing to accept and then start working on those grounds, it makes a lot of difference.
Yes.
ਜੋ ਅੱਜ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਜੀ ਜੌਨ ਰਸਟਡ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ, ਉਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੁੱਖ ਤੌਰ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮੈਂ ਪੁੱਛੇ ਸਵਾਲ ਕਿ ਜਿਸ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਨਾਲ BC ਕੰਜ਼ਰਵੇਟਿਵ ਦੀ ਪੋਪੂਲੈਰਿਟੀ ਵਧ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ, ਕੀ ਇਹ ਫੈਡਰਲ ਕੰਜ਼ਰਵੇਟਿਵਸ ਦੇ ਕਾਰਨ ਵਧ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ? ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਹਾਂ ਥੋੜ੍ਹਾ ਬਹੁਤਾ ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ, ਲੇਕਿਨ ਮੁੱਖ ਤੌਰ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਲੋਕ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਫਰਸਟ੍ਰੇਟਡ ਨੇ, ਫੈਡ ਅਪ ਨੇ NDP ਤੇ BC ਲਿਬਰਲਸ ਤੋਂ। ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੀ ਤਾਂ ਉਸੇ ਪਾਰਟੀ 'ਚੋਂ ਆਏ ਹੋ, ਪਰ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਨਹੀਂ, ਅਸੀਂ ਇੱਕ ਵੱਖਰੇ ਮੁੱਦੇ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਕੰਮ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ, ਅਤੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਸਾਡੀ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਬਣਦੀ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਾਡੇ MLAs ਹੋਣਗੇ ਉਹ ਰਿਸਪੌਂਸਿਬਲ ਹੋਣਗੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਰਾਈਡਿੰਗ ਦੇ ਇਸ਼ੂਜ਼ ਹੈਗੇ ਨੇ ਉਹਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾਏਗੀ ਅਤੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੀ ਆਵਾਜ਼ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਉਹ ਬੁਲੰਦ ਹੋਏਗੀ। ਟਰਾਂਸਪੇਰੈਂਸੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਮੁੱਖ ਫੈਕਟਰ ਰਹੇਗਾ। ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਐਕਨੋਲੇਜ ਕੀਤਾ ਕਿ ਹਰ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਗਲਤੀਆਂ ਕਰਦੀ ਹੈ, ਲੇਕਿਨ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਨਾਲ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਸ ਉੱਤੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਇਹ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਵਾਂਗੇ ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਅਸੀਂ ਦੱਸ ਸਕੀਏ ਕਿ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਸਾਡੀ ਨਾਕਾਮਯਾਬੀ ਹੋਈ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ ਅੱਗੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਕੀ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਹੈਲਥ ਕੇਅਰ ਦੇ ਮੁੱਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਜੌਨ ਨੇ ਬੜੀ ਸੋਹਣੀ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਹੈਗੀਆਂ ਨੇ। ਦੱਸਿਆ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਇੱਕ ਰੈਵੋਲਿਊਸ਼ਨਾਈਜ਼ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਇਸ ਸਿਸਟਮ ਨੂੰ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਕਮੀਆਂ ਨੇ। ਅਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਸਿਰਫ ਬ੍ਰਿਟਿਸ਼ ਕੋਲੰਬੀਆ 'ਚ ਨਹੀਂ ਬਲਕਿ ਪੂਰੇ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਭਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ, ਅਤੇ ਈਵਨ ਕਈ ਪ੍ਰਾਂਤਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਕਿ ਕੰਜ਼ਰਵੇਟਿਵ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਹੈ ਉੱਥੇ ਵੀ ਇਹ ਸਮੱਸਿਆਵਾਂ ਨੇ। ਅਤੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੈ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ, ਇਹ ਜਾਇਜ਼ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ ਕਿ 10 ਤੋਂ 12 ਘੰਟੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਵਿਅਕਤੀ ਨੂੰ ਵੇਟ ਕਰਨਾ ਪਏ। ਡਾਕਟਰਸ ਇੱਥੇ ਰਹਿਣਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ, ਬਾਹਰ ਜਾਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ, ਨਰਸਿਸ ਨਹੀਂ ਰਹਿਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ। ਤਾਂ ਉਸ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਇੱਕ ਚੰਗਾ ਮਾਹੌਲ ਕ੍ਰੀਏਟ ਕਰਨਗੇ ਜਿਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੀ ਮੈਡੀਕਲ ਫਰਟਰਨਿਟੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਇੱਥੇ ਹੀ ਰਹਿ ਕੇ ਕਾਮਯਾਬ ਹੋ ਸਕੇ ਅਤੇ ਕੰਮ ਕਰ ਸਕੇ। ਸੋ ਜੋ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਚੱਲ ਰਹੀ ਜੀ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੁੜ ਤੋਂ ਕੁਝ ਹੋਰ ਮੁੱਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਮੈਂ ਅਗਲੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਐਪੀਸੋਡ ਵਿੱਚ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕਰਕੇ ਸਾਂਝ ਪਾਵਾਂਗਾ। ਅਤੇ ਜੌਨ ਰਸਟਡ ਜੋ ਕਿ BC ਕੰਜ਼ਰਵੇਟਿਵ ਦੇ ਨੇਤਾ ਹੈਗੇ ਨੇ, ਹੋਰ ਕਿਹੜੇ ਉਹ ਅਹਿਮ ਮੁੱਦੇ ਨੇ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ 'ਤੇ ਇਹ ਕੁਝ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ, ਅਗਲੀ ਵਾਰ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਕੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਸਾਂਝ ਪਾਵਾਂਗੇ।